Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We are currently load shedding. So we will try to continue. And if either I drop off, if my power cuts out, then you know that it's time out. So we'll try, I'm gonna keep my video off since I only have one screen currently working on battery power. Okay, just let me know if I'm audible. Thank you. All right. And you can see my screen, correct? All right, wonderful. Let us start. Om.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Welcome again. Online, today we continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, verses 20 to 25. Conversation between Narada and Vyas. We'll go over the Mangal Chan prayers. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Vada Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Viyusha Sarva Vedeka Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kali Dando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transferred fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with dews of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna, who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Prema Vashasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance to you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka bandhu mat sangim mad guru man mahadana man nishtaraka mad bhagya mad ananda namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadahin patti nichocha taraka hanamuncha kada chinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to unsaintly, O uplift to the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma throat and accompany a pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya yotonvayaditaratas chartesva vignasvara tene brahma hidaya adikavaye muyanti yatsuraya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatrati sargo mrisha damna svena sada nirastakuakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him, to the material universe is temporarily manifest by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalpayasha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana mandasumanda matayo mandabhagya upadharta. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, many but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana namaskritya narachaivam narotamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Shri Vyasadeva, the author. Savaipum soparo dharmo yato bhaktira dokshajay ahitukiya pratyata yayatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, and completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janati Asyu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahoitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes, knowledge, and detachment from the worlds. Vadanti tat tat pravidas tattam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentals who know the absolute truth calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shushrushosharadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great services done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shrantam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Yaratyantastoya Badrani Vidunati Shuritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart. And the benefactor of a truthful devotee cleanses the desire of material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayashu badreshu nitam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatu tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance and the classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So let us cover some feedback that you may have from last week's lesson. Please share any feedback that you have that you took home from last week. Okay, Mother Hemavati says, Srila Prabhupada would write his Bhaktivedanta purports and chant Hare Krishna after each sentence so carefully with such devotion. George Harrison said, everyone is looking for Krishna, some know and some don't. Nalini Kantaprabhu says, Narad Muni walks successfully so he could sit successfully and meditate. Wonderful, correct. Madhachana Siddhi says, Srila Prabhupada has captured Krishna in his heart and he can give us Krishna. If we want success, we must have faith in Srila Prabhupada. Mother Lesh says, in every situation, we have two options. Use the situation as an excuse, or use it as an impetus and progress and grow. Correct. Wonderful. Mother Uttara Devidasi says, gain faith to depend on Krishna. Have a strong mind to give Krishna to others. Have a stronger mind to give Krishna to others. Rasaraj Prabhu says, we should be like Narad Muni, being detached, fearless, fixed, and always meditating on Shri Krishna. Wonderful. Anybody else would like to share? Bhavana Prabhu says, Shri Narad is missing and grieving the form of the Lord. His dissatisfaction, same as Vyasa's dissatisfaction after writing the Vedic knowledge. So I'd like to shed a little light on this. So it's interesting that even though Narad Muni felt dissatisfaction, which Srila Vyasadeva also felt, they're not the same. Vyasadeva felt incomplete and dissatisfied because he had moved in a certain direction which caused him to be dissatisfied. Narad Muni, on the other hand, his dissatisfaction was related to separation from the Lord. So one is a direction that is devoid of Krishna, and the other is a direction connected with Krishna. And even though externally it seems both are dissatisfied and experiencing or lamenting, they're two different types of lamentation. Vyasadeva is representing our form of lamentation in this material world, material lamentation, whereas Narad Muni is representing lamentation on the level of bhava and beyond, where a pure devotee of the Lord is feeling the separation and lamenting the separation from the Lord. Shamananpura says, we are simply chewing the truth. Nothing is new. We've been through these things lifetime after lifetime. We need to break the cycle. Most definitely. Thank you very much for your feedback. Yes. And as we mentioned, as we go through these purports, these chapters, Prabhupada shares so many wonderful gems in each of these purports. And we have to really take these instructions to heart. And to the degree we take them to heart, to that degree, we will progress. So the question I have is, how is Narad Muni's life story relevant for us? How is Narad Muni's life story relevant to us? Please share in the chat. How is Narad Muni's life story relevant for us? Because as we go through Srimad Bhagavatam, we also have to look at practically every verse and understand it. How is it relevant to me? How is this applicable to me? So how is Narad Muni's life applicable? Mother Les says, we will go through obstacles and experience loss. This is an example of how to act to still make progress. Good. Amavati Radhika says, he's teaching us the path of perfection. Good. Rasaras Prabhu says, we learn the importance of devotional service. Good. And Madhachani Siddhi says, detachment. Right, wonderful. So Narad Muni's life is relevant because if we see Narad Muni's life before he became, right, we got Viresh Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, he shows us the 4 yugas goes in cycles. Okay, so they show giving us the aspect of time. And Sugata Goswami says Narad was searching for Krishna. Right, good. So consider, we know Narad Muni as traveling spaceman. Narad Muni as a traveling spaceman is telling us about his previous life in the previous kalpa as the maidservant son, and how he got the mercy of the Bhaktivedanta and practiced the process where he saw Krishna, and then he got his body that he currently has. And then he also told us before this, before he got the maidservant's son's birth, he was a Gandharva. And that means he became a Gandharva by not following his Lord Brahma's instruction. He fell down as a Gandharva, became maidservant's son, and then perfected his life and became Narad Muni. So from a fallen state of a Gandharva, taking birth as a maidservant's son in a very unfortunate situation, didn't know who his father was, been raised by his mother who was completely dependent, very simple woman, but receiving the mercy of the Bhaktivedantas, he was able to gain knowledge and practice that process of Krishna consciousness and perfect his life. So if we look at Narad Muni's life, we also once upon a time had a relationship with Krishna. We fell into this material world. And now we have the association of Bhaktivedantas. In our case, Srila Prabhupada. And we can now perfect our life and get our spiritual form back. So Narad Muni's life is a perfect example of what we're going through currently. And just as he got the association of the Bhaktivedantas, we also have the association of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, there is really no excuse other than our own efforts in terms of achieving perfection. Now, if we look at Narad Muni's life again, it's the situation we are, or the verses that we are covering, is showing us how Narad Muni received theory, he received Gyan, he received the knowledge from the Bhaktivedantas. And he was able to sit well because he walked well. So he applied the process and the knowledge that he received, and he gained realization of that knowledge. He gained Vigyan. So his initial faith that he had placed in the Bhaktivedantas, the knowledge that he was given, because he was a small child. So, and it wasn't like he went to a very educated, he went to school to become educated. He was a maidservant son, so he was a very simple boy. He could not verify at that point what the Bhaktivedantas had given him. But having faith, having trust in what they had given him, that they're not here to cheat him. So he took that knowledge to heart with that faith, and he applied that knowledge, and he was able to realize that knowledge. They told him about God. As a small maidservant son, he never seen God, but he had faith that they're telling him about God. That means God exists. And then he started practicing the process. He realized God. And that is the process of Krishna consciousness as well, that if we apply the knowledge we are given, we will realize that knowledge. Our faith will become verified. So that is also a very important point. A question that we can ask ourselves is, does Sri Krishna respond to our efforts? So I can ask this question to you. Does Sri Krishna respond to your efforts? What would you say? Does Krishna respond to your efforts? Mother Archana Siddhi says yes. Does Krishna respond to your efforts? Mother Les says most definitely. Hemavati Radhika says definitely. Vires says yes, and Les says sometimes before you ask the question. Correct, because Krishna naturally knows. Good. And Sukadeva Goswami also says yes. Wonderful. So it's interesting that Narad Muni, he meditated, he was able to see Krishna, and then Krishna disappeared. And he tried again to see Krishna. And the second time, even though he applied the same mechanical process, Krishna did not appear. Vasaraj Prabhu says always, but we don't realize it. Good. So Krishna reciprocates always, but not necessarily according to how you expect him to reciprocate. Krishna does reciprocate, but because he's a person and he's independent, he will reciprocate how he feels he wants to reciprocate. And it may not be exactly as we planned or expect, but no doubt he will reciprocate. He may reciprocate by not doing anything. He may reciprocate by doing something. He may reciprocate by doing exactly what you expect. And he may reciprocate by doing something completely opposed to what you expect. Even the timing may be totally different from what you expect. In relation to reciprocation, Srila Prabhupada, I've presented a few quotes here. Srila Prabhupada in the letter to Sham Sundar, to Brahmananda Prabhu says, please accept my blessings. Your nice letter of 818 in hand. Your nice philosophy that Krishna takes and gives is very nice. This means Krishna is not impersonal. He is the supreme person and fully reciprocates. The impersonalists cannot reciprocate. Krishna does not take anything from them, neither does he give them anything. The impersonal, therefore, simply enjoys the troubles of speculation. Practically, this is a letter to Shamsundar, practically we see that as we sincerely try to improve our chanting for the pleasure of Krishna, Krishna reciprocates and we feel our greatest pleasure, which is devotional service to the Lord. So Krishna will reciprocate according to our devotional efforts. As far as your question, Krishna is not in need of anything. He is Purnam, the complete whole, and yet he appreciates our love for him, just like everyone appreciates if someone exhibits some love for them. So he kindly allows us to show that love by considering that if I do not feed him, Krishna will go hungry. If I do not give him rest, he will be tired. Like that. He reciprocates by pretending to be dependent on me, my slave, just to give us an opportunity to find the real object of our loving propensity and to take pleasure by pleasing and serving him. Everything we do should be for the reason that it gives pleasure to Krishna, because Krishna's intimate associates give him the most pleasure, and because they are his favorite, it pleases him to see that these associates and the close friends are also offered all respect by the devotees. Tulsi Devi is part of Krishna's entourage. She is Krishnaized or Krishna conscious, and in this pure state, she has all the qualities of Krishna. Therefore, she becomes worshipable just like Krishna. There is a saying, love me, love my dog. It is like that. To approach the president is very difficult. Unless you are a friend of his son or daughter, then it becomes very easy. So worship of Tulsi Devi and other of the Lord Krishna's entourage is part of the total devotional attitude of pleasing Krishna. So here Prabhupada is emphasizing this aspect of trying to offer service to Krishna for his pleasure and service to those who are close to Krishna, Krishna's associates. And Krishna has given us this opportunity. He doesn't need it, but he's giving us that opportunity so that we can understand our real object of love. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any either living being or demigod, even for being delivered from any danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was also always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee upon him. One should not, therefore, look for help from imperfect living beings or demigods, but one should look for all help from Lord Krishna, who is competent enough to save his devotees. Such chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord out of his own accord is always anxious to render help to such chaste devotees. So even though Narada Muni tried mechanically to see Krishna a second time, Krishna did not appear because no mechanical process can allow Krishna to appear. Still, there is this aspect of you sincerely trying to render service to Krishna, trying to please Krishna. And by you trying to render service to please Krishna, Krishna becomes purchased, Krishna becomes bought over by that sincere, selfless, unmotivated, uninterrupted service. And that motivates Krishna to reciprocate. Okay? So there's no mechanical process, but no doubt there is the sincere efforts that allows Krishna to reciprocate, because he is a person. Just like if you are giving a gift to any individual, any person, as soon as you give a gift to someone, they immediately would say thank you. That's like the bare minimum reciprocation. It's just normal relationships. This is how a relationship develops. This is how relationships are. So similarly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So we are covering conversation between Narad and Vyas, chapter 6. And today we're going to cover verses 20 to 25. The Lord instructs and consoles Narad Muni. 20 to 22, you cannot see me again in this life. And 23 to 25, even little bhakti is also great. Even time factor cannot destroy it. So text 20. Evam yatam tam vijane mam aha gocharo giram gambhira slakshna yavacha skucha prasanmayan ivam. Seeing my attempts in that lowly place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane descriptions, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my grief. So Narad Muni tried again to meditate on the Supreme Lord after the Lord had disappeared. And no doubt, when he saw the Lord, he developed, he had so many ecstatic symptoms. Tears rolled from his eyes, his hair stood on end, etc. And then Krishna disappeared. And then he tried again, second time. And the second time, Krishna did not appear to his sight, but Krishna spoke to him. One time, Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk with the disciples. And one disciple told Srila Prabhupada, they say God does not exist because nobody has seen God. And Srila Prabhupada responded that yes, no fool has seen God. That doesn't mean there is no one that has seen God, because Prabhupada himself was seeing Krishna. The previous acharyas in our line have seen Krishna. So it's not that there is no one on this planet that has never seen Krishna. We don't know everyone. And therefore, just to say that nobody's seen God is not a valid question or a valid response to the existence of God. Another aspect in relation to that question or that point that nobody's seen God is people generally say, well, there is no afterlife. Why? Because nobody has come back to us to tell us about their afterlife. Most people, when you tell them there's life after death, and they'll say, but nobody came back from after death to come tell me that, oh, I now have taken birth here and this is my situation. So therefore they don't believe. But here we see Bhagavatam is presenting Narad Muni is an example. Here is Narad Muni who died, and he's now revealing his previous life in the previous kalpa, many billions of years ago, and prior to that birth. So we accept the Bhagavatam as Amala Puran, as spotless, as the absolute truth. And we are receiving the evidence, one of afterlife, and second, here in this verse, or prior to this, the incident of Narad Muni seeing Krishna, and now Krishna appearing. But this time Krishna spoke to Narad Muni. Now, if somebody had to ask if God has spoken to you, if Krishna spoke to you, and you now trying to explain to someone that, Krishna spoke to me and this is what Krishna said, it's impossible to describe and put that in words. Therefore, Narad Muni is saying that Krishna, he is the personality of Godhead who is transcendental to all mundane description. There is no, I cannot use my words, which are material of sound vibration. I can't use my mundane words to describe Krishna's transcendental speech. But he's giving some description. So he says, Krishna spoke Gambhira, very gravely, and he is pleasing. His words were very pleasing, as well as it mitigated his grief. So Prabhupada in the purport says, in the Vedas, it is said that God is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence. And yet, by his causeless mercy, one can have suitable senses to hear him or to speak to him. This is the Lord's inconceivable energy. One upon whom his mercy is bestowed can hear him. The Lord was much pleased with Narad Muni, and therefore necessary strength was invested in him so that he could hear the Lord. It is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotional service. it was a special gift for Narad. When he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, the feelings of separation were to some extent mitigated. A devotee in love of God feels always the pangs of separation and is therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. Narad Muni has come to the stage of bhava, which is, you could say, budding love. And now the Lord is reciprocating with him so that that bud of love can manifest, can bloom and fully blossom, becomes youthful prem, youthful love. And the Lord is reciprocating for this purpose by appearing before Narad Muni and then leaving. Because when the Lord appears before Narad Muni, God appearing, no doubt, you would not want to see anything else. And this is how the Lord reciprocated with Narad Muni. Narad Muni tried a second time, and the Lord then spoke to Narad Muni. And his words were very grave, gambira, shlakshnaya, very pleasing to hear. In the Vedanta Sutra 115, it is described, ikshater na shabdam, which means that, as Prabhupada is describing, no words can approach the Supreme Lord. The Lord is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence. In the Vedanta Sutras, it described that when you try to use your mind to understand God, it comes back, fails. When you use your intelligence to understand the absolute truth, it comes back, it returns. It fails to understand, to grasp the supreme absolute truth. And by this sutra, iksater nashabdam, because it is seen that Brahman is vividly described in the Vedic scriptures, it should be understood that Brahman is not indescribable by words. Meaning that it's not that words cannot be used to connect with the Supreme Lord, but words cannot say enough of the Supreme Lord. You can't completely describe the Supreme Lord with words because he is unlimited. Many people, especially impersonal, they interpret this statement, ikshater nashabdam, that you can't use words to understand God. And therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, yes, therefore they should keep quiet. Because if they can't use words to describe and to understand God, let them keep quiet. Because for them, God is impersonal. But for the devotees of the Lord, it's not that words cannot be used to describe the Supreme Lord, but it's that words are not enough to describe the Supreme Lord. No words are enough to describe the Supreme Lord. So this is the nature of Krishna. And when the Lord spoke, his voice, try to understand that person who's the most perfect, or try to imagine that person who's the most perfect, who's the most lovable, who's the most compassionate, kindest, sweetest. Every part of his being is completely perfect. If he's going to speak with perfect spiritual vocal cords and transcendental sound emanating from his lotus mouth, that voice, that sound is beyond this creation. Narad Muni uses the word gambira. We have some description of the word gambira from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his final years, he stayed in the Gambira, which was like a small room. It is described, I think, 8 feet, very small room where the Lord experienced the epitome, the climax of pure love of Krishna. He experienced such exalted epitome of pure love of Krishna that, you know, his body would go to such drastic transformations. So his experience in the Gambhira was very grave, very deep, very profound, inconceivable. And that is what Narad Muni is experiencing. Very deep, very profound, very exalted sound, as well as very, very pleasing. And this relieved Narad Muni from his separation. Why? Because everything related to the Lord, his speech, the scent that comes out from his body, the color of his body, his flute playing, every part, every manifest, every facet of the Supreme Lord is non-different from the Supreme Lord. So even here the Lord is speaking, but Narad Muni is able to see the Supreme Lord even through speech. There's a wonderful pastime in relation to the experience that Narad Muni is receiving, and in relation to us, the path or the process that we have been given by Srila Prabhupada. And this pastime in relation to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarmaj was about living at Radhakund. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarmaj used the statement, Pujala Raghava Patha Gaurava Bhange. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instructed that we must not go to live in Radhakund. And Radhakund is the most exalted, most highest place in the universe, the most sacred place of pilgrimage. One day, near Lalita Kund, where there was a single-story building at Swananda Sukhananda Kunj, he said, a second story is necessary, but I will not be able to live there. I asked, if you will not live on the first floor, who will live there? What is necessary for further instructions? What is the necessity for further construction? No, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, you don't know. Better persons will live there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaurkisha's Bhavji Maharaj, they will live there. And we shall stay on the ground floor and we shall serve them. Again, he said, I shall live in Govardhan. Radhakund is the highest place, the place of our Guru Maharaj, our Gurudevs. They will live here in closer connection with Leela, but we are not fit to live there. We shall live in Govardhan, just a little far away, because we shall have to come and serve our Gurudevs. We must be near, but we must not live in close connection with them. We are not fit. So just understand this graveness of what Narad Muni is experiencing and what we have been given in terms of the process of Krishna consciousness. It is not an ordinary destination. Here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is saying that we want to build a second floor, but we're not going to stay on the second floor. We will live on the ground floor to serve those who are on the second floor. Srila Prabhupada also, hearing about one of his disciples, he said, Prabhupada learned one day that one of his disciples had left the company of ISKCON devotees to live among the Babajis at Radhakund. Prabhupada became angry and sent the fourth boy to come immediately. When the boy arrived, Prabhupada went out to see him. Dressed in only a dhoti, Prabhupada spoke sternly to his disciples, saying that the monkeys of Vrindavan also live simply, but are interested only in eating and sex. Don't become a monkey, Prabhupada said, trembling as he spoke. Why don't you come and live with me? boy replied, the Babajis have given me some facility to chant. You come with me, Prabhupada exclaimed. I will give you facility, but don't become a monkey. The boy surrendered before Prabhupada's compassionate concern. So what we are given in this disciplic succession, by the mercy of Sri Mahaprabhu and a disciplic succession, in terms of entering into Krishna's pastimes again, especially the Vrindavan pastimes, is a very, very exalted destination. And therefore, we want to honor and respect that destination. We want to be in awe for that destination. At the same time, we want to apply the process of Krishna consciousness to enter into that destination. So it's a very gambhira, very serious, very deep destination. At the same time, by the process and the mercy that we are receiving through Srila Prabhupada, it is a possible destination. Text 21. Krishna now continues to speak through Narad Muni. Hantasmin janmani bhavan ma mam drashtum iharhati avipaksva ashaya yavam yanam durdarsho ham kuyoginam. O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. So the Lord spoke to Narad Muni and he addressed him as Hanta Smi. Hanta. Hanta is a very affectionate way of addressing. The Lord also used this word to address Arjuna. Very affectionate. Hanta. And the Lord said that you will not see me again in this life. And why? Because you are incomplete in, or anyone who's incomplete in service cannot see him. And Krishna also used the word kuyogi, like a bhogi yogi, one who's not sincere, one who's one who still has material taints, right? They also will not be able to see Krishna. So so this verse can be seen in two ways. One is Lord Krishna is sharing with us what we need to address for us to be able to see the Supreme Lord by his causeless mercy. We need to be complete in our devotional service, and we have to be free from all material taints. Narad Muni naturally got the darshan of Krishna. So he's telling Narad Muni that actually your devotional service is complete and you are free from all taints, because Narad Muni, as a small child, he went through so many situations, so many scenarios, villages, mines, lakes, and he was focused. He was one-pointed. His attention was focused on seeing the Supreme Lord. So he was serious. And therefore the Lord appeared to him. At the same time, the Lord is intensifying his desire to meet him again. Prabhupada in the purport says, the personality of Godhead is described in Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme and the absolute truth. There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person. And thus, one who has the slightest tinge of material affection cannot approach him. The beginning of devotional service starts from the point where one is freed from at least two forms of material modes, namely the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. The result is exhibited by the signs of being freed from kama, lust, and lobha, covetousness. That is to say, one must be freed from the desire for sense gratification and the avarice for sense gratification. The balanced mode of nature is goodness. And to be completely freed from all material tinges is to become free from the mode of goodness also. So Prabhupada is giving us a hint that Narad Muni had this attachment, very little attachment to the mode of goodness, because he was in the forest. And it wasn't an obstacle that was blocking his path of devotional service, but it was a tinge that was still there, just like a seed. If you take a seed and you soak that seed, you waterlog that seed. You put that seed in a glass of water and you waterlog that seed. When you waterlog that seed is not going to fructify. Or if the seed is sown in the ground and you put too much water, then that seed is not going to fructify. So similarly, this tinge of being attached to the mode of goodness, which Narad Muni had because he was in the forest, even though it did not overpower his devotional service, obstruct his devotional service, his devotional service was far more potent. It was overshadowing. It was its potency was far more powerful than the effect of the mode of goodness, but still it was there. And therefore, in order to now take Narad Muni to fully blossomed pure love of Krishna, the Lord made this arrangement. And to be completely freed from all material tinges is to become freed from the mode of goodness also. So we also want to go beyond the mode of ignorance, beyond the mode of passion. At least those two modes we want to transcend through the practice of Krishna consciousness and embracing those activities in the mode of goodness. Then we want to transcend even the mode of goodness and come purely to the mode of pure goodness, transcendental goodness. To search the audience of God in a lonely forest is considered to be in the mode of goodness. One can go out into the forest to attain spiritual perfection, but that does not mean that one can see the Lord personally there. One must be completely freed from all material attachment and be situated on the plane of transcendence, which alone will help the devotee get in personal touch with the personality of God. The best method is that one should live at a place where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. So this is the best place we can stay. The best method is that one should live at a place where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. The temple of the Lord is a transcendental place, whereas the forest is a materially good habitation. A neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship the deity of the Lord Archana rather than go into the forest to search out the Lord. Devotional service begins from the process of Archana, which is better than going out in the forest. In his present life, which is completely freed from all material hankerings, Shri Narad Muni does not go into the forest, although he can turn every place into Vaikuntha by his presence only. He travels from one planet to another to convert men, gods, kinnaras, gandharvas, rishis, munis, and all others to become devotees of the Lord. By his activities, he has engaged many devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and many others in the transcendental service of the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, follows in the footsteps of the great devotees like Narad and Prahlad, and engages his whole time in glorifying the Lord by the process of kirtan. Such a preaching process is transcendental to all material qualities. So Prabhupada is making two very, very important points here. First is that the best place to live is where the Lord, so where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. We know that every temple where we have installed deities, the Lord is being worshipped, which means that a temple is not even in a mode of goodness. It's transcendental to the mode of goodness. The temple is transcendental. It's Vaikuntha. So which means that if one is fortunate enough to stay near a temple, if one is fortunate enough to stay in the temple, that's glorious. If one is fortunate enough to stay even as a grihastha near a temple, he is blessed. Because near a temple means that he can go daily to the temple. Unfortunately, we may not realize that the temple is actually transcendental. It is Vaikuntha. It is Goloka Vrindavan. It is Navadvip. Because of our material conditioning, we just think, yeah, it's another building, like my house. But Prabhupada says a forest is in a mode of goodness. A hotel is in a mode of passion. And a brothel is in a mode of ignorance. So one's home may be a passion goodness. A forest is in a mode of goodness. Therefore, if one is living near a temple and able to visit the temple regularly, means he's able to go to an environment that is spiritual, a Vaikuntha environment. And in that way, get the benefit of that environment. Or, as Prabhupada is going to reveal to us, as Prabhupada says, devotional service begins from the process of archana. So that means if we bring deities into our own home and worship the deities, then that home can also be transformed into Vaikuntha. So that is the glorious position or that is the wonderful opportunity that we have to transform our environment into Vaikuntha, transcendental. Then Prabhupada at the end says that we should engage our whole time in glorifying the Lord through the process of kirtan. If we make our house a temple by installing deities, by bringing the deities, then we can engage in the process of kirtan, glorifying the Lord through the process of kirtan. And that will keep us transcendently situated. Even preaching, going and visiting, sharing Krishna consciousness with others, distributing transcendental literature, these activities are totally and completely transcendental. One time, one devotee raised the question to Srila Prabhupada that the book distributors, they're going out on the streets and they're getting affected by those that they meet, because the people that are meeting are in mode of passion ignorance. And Prabhupada said, no. Those who are going out, they don't get impacted by the mode of ignorance and passion of the people there. In fact, those people who they meet, they're getting impacted by the power of Sankirtan. They're getting transcendentally impacted because the process of sharing, of preaching, of Krishna consciousness, it's totally transcendental. And because it's an activity that pleases the Lord the most, it is the most sheltered form of devotional practice. So congregational chanting, kirtan, preaching, and worshiping the deity. This will allow us to stay afloat of three modes of material nature. Prabhupada, in the purport to the second canto, third chapter, verse 22, Prabhupada says, especially for household devotees, the path of deity worship is strongly recommended. As far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must install the deity of Vishnu. Forms like Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, or Sita Ram especially, or any other form of the Lord, like Nishinga, Varha, Gaunitai, Matsya, Kurma, Shalagram, Shila, and many other forms of Vishnu, like Trivikram, Keshava, Achyuta, Vasudeva, Narayan, Damodar, is recommended in the Vaishnava Tantras or Puranas. And one's family should worship strictly following the directions and regulations of Archana. Any member of the family who is above 12 years of age should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and all the members of the household should be engaged in daily service of the Lord, beginning from the morning 4 a.m. till night 10 p.m. by performing Mangalarti, Niranjan, Archana, Puja, Kirtan, Shringar, Bhoga, Vaikali, Sandhya Artik, Pata, Bhoga at night, Siana Artika, etc. All the different activities that we're performing at the temple, the 6 different artis, the offerings, the bathing of the deities, dressing of the deities. This is what's recommended. Engagement in such worship of the deity under the direction of bona fide spiritual master will greatly help the householders to purify their very existence and make rapid progress in spiritual knowledge. So Prabhupada is recommending that one must have deities. Now, if you are staying near the temple, then you have the fortune of visiting the deity and serving the deity at the temple. So that would be first prize. If one is able to serve the deity within that location. Just like in Gauteng, we have Shishinitai Gaurahari. They're the presiding deity of Gauteng. So we should try to connect to them and their service in different ways, in different capacities. And in this way, by connecting with them, then this will help our spiritual life tremendously. We can even have deities at home, which is recommended, so that we can be regulated in the different services of the deities. So for householders, this is very, very important. The whole family can be engaged. They can center their whole life around the deities. Okay, this is very, very important and very conducive for householders. Text 22. Sakrid yad dashritam rupam etat kamayate naga mat kama sanakaik sadhu sarvan munchati richana chayan. O virtuous one, we have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me, because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. So very, very wonderful instructions the Lord is giving Narad Muni. The more you hanker for me, the more you'll be freed from all material desires. So instead of desiring material things, we need to desire Krishna. Instead of hankering for material things, we need to hanker for Krishna. This is how we can gauge our progress. Prabhupada in the purport says, a living being cannot be vacant of desires. He is not a dead stone. He must be working, thinking, feeling, and willing. But when he thinks, feels, and wills materially, he becomes entangled. And conversely, when he thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord, he becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. So this is the perfection. This is what we should be striving for. We should be molding our life in such a way that everything is centered around Krishna, and all our thinking, feeling, willing, all our activities, the center point, the focal point is the pleasure of Krishna, is Krishna. The more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. That is the transcendental nature of godly service. And this is why it is very, very important to have some service connected to the deities of the Lord. As I mentioned, if we have some service connected to, let's say, Shishinitai Gaurahari, then that service that connects us, this will increase our hankering for the Supreme Lord. That service will be our lifeline, and it will intensify our relationship and will increase our hankering. This is very, very important. This is key. Because if we don't do that, practically every single day we are connected to material service. We're connected to material aspects of this material world. And therefore we can be swayed away. Prabhupada continues, material service has satiation, where spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end. One can go on increasing his hankering for the loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. Therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service because his service and his person are identical. A sincere devotee should go on with sincere service of the Lord. The Lord will give proper direction as to how and where it has to be done. There was no material desire narrowed, and yet just to increase his intense desire for the Lord, he was so advised. Prabhupada is using the words here by intense service of the Lord. So we need to understand the value of devotional service, the privilege of devotional service, and we need to become serious of our Krishna consciousness. In the beginning stage, we may be very casual, or even before that, we may not be interested in devotional service. So coming from the material environment, coming from the material world, we are not interested in devotional service. Then by the association of the devotees, we begin to understand the value of devotional service. And then we start to become casual about devotional service. That means now and then we do some service or visit a temple, we start to become casual. But that is not a healthy situation or healthy platform to be, because you can become a casualty. So we need to very quickly go from casual becoming serious. And that platform of serious devotional service is wonderful, is glorious, but we need to go from serious to intense devotional service. So from no devotional service to casual devotional service to serious devotional service to intense devotional service. When we come to intense devotional service, Prabhupada is saying one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendental. So the opportunity is there for us. Prabhupada is giving his blessings. Just like the Bhaktivedantas gave Narad Muni the blessings, that Narad Muni, if you engage in intense devotional service, you will experience the Lord personally. Narad Muni took that to heart and he experienced the Lord. So this opportunity is there for us. We may be very serious, which means we're chanting 16 rounds, we doing so many wonderful services, etc., studying and reading. That is wonderful. But we need to increase. We need to go one more notch up to intense. We need to intensify our practice. That means, go beyond the call of duty. Go beyond, what is prescribed. And that's how the Lord will see that you are serious. You are truly serious. You are very, very serious to pleasing Him. And that is what will attract the Lord. The example is given of the chatak bird. Chatak birds, they are only interested in taking the raindrops from a rain cloud. They drink water that only comes from the rain clouds. And it's explained that devotees are like chatak birds. They only are interested in getting mercy from Krishna and attracting the attention of Krishna. And the chatak bird may be hovering around the rain cloud, waiting for the raindrops to fall. And sometimes there's no raindrops but thunder. And the chatak bird still will not leave those rain clouds, even though there may be lots of water on the ground or other bodies of water, but the chatak bird will not be interested in taking water from any other source but the rain cloud. So the devotees of the Lord also, even though there may be thunder and lightning, there may be difficult situations, still they will not give up the wonderful shelter and mercy of the rain cloud of Shamsundar. They will stay and wait for that opportune moment where the Lord showers his mercy, his causeless mercy, in the form of raindrops. So Narad Muni also, he continued practicing the process, and Krishna reciprocated. Similarly, we also need to continue intensely engaged in devotional service and keep our heart open, in a receptive mood, right? Not in a achiever's mood, but in a receiver's mood. Keep our heart open, continue engaging in intense devotional service, begging and praying to the Lord, and then let the Lord decide whenever he wants to shower his causeless mercy in the form of raindrops, because we should simply be like the chatak birds. Text 23. Sat sevaya dirga yapi jatapai dridamati hitvava imam lokam ganta maj janatam ashi. By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. So I have a question for you in relation to this verse. Here the Lord is describing Sat Sevaya Dirghayapi, that by service of the absolute truth, even a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. This first sentence is referring to what situation in relation to Narad Muni? This first sentence is related to what situation in relation to Narad Muni? Shamananda Prabhu says, serving the sages. Correct. Here the Lord is referring, Rasarat says, Bhajana Kriya, causeless service. Maybe says, so Narad Muni is always truthful. Masastali says, Hemavati says, serving the Bhaktivedantas. Yes. So this is what the Lord is referring to, service to the Bhaktivedantas. Now the Lord's statement is very, very important. He's not saying by service of the Bhaktivedantas, even for a few days, a devotee like you, Narad Muni, attained firm and fixed intelligence in me. The Lord is saying that by service of the absolute truth, that means service to the Bhaktivedantas is non-different to service of the Supreme Lord. That is the statement. In our case, service to Srila Prabhupada is non-different to service to the Supreme Lord. And when Narad Muni served the Bhaktivedantas, right, even for a few days, he attained fixed intelligence on the Supreme Lord by the power of the Bhaktivedantas, and he already got his ticket. He already got his visa and ticket to become an associate in the transcendental world after giving up this present miserable, deplorable material world. So what does that imply in relation to us? Who can put this statement, in terms of what I mentioned, who can put this statement in relation, or rephrase the statement very simply in relation to us? Okay, Viresh Prabhu says there is a way out. Good, give me a little more details. So in relation to the whole verse, Narad Muni who had the opportunity to serve the Bhaktivedantas, which means service to the Supreme Lord, and that made his intelligence fixed on Krishna, and that already gave him a ticket and visa to become an associate of the Lord after leaving this present world. So how is that relevant in our case? Shyamananda Prabhu says, do something for Srila Prabhupada and his mission. Very good. Mother Lash says, service to Srila Prabhupada, who has given us the knowledge. We follow the process, we fix our intelligence on Krishna and get our ticket to Krishna. Very good. By serving the devotees, we attain the Supreme. Yes. Bhakti Yoga, the rest says. Very good. So Mother Lash summed it nicely. Hemavati says, by serving Srila Prabhupada, we get intelligence to become Krishna conscious and go back home. Yes. So that is the key. Our connection, our ticket, our visa is simply to connect to Srila Prabhupada, to serve Srila Prabhupada and his mission. And in this way, our ticket and visa is already purchased, and we are gone to become associates in the transcendental world after leaving this body. Prabhupada in the purport says, serving the absolute truth means rendering service unto the absolute personality of Godhead under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, who is a transparent by medium between the Lord and the neophyte devotee. The neophyte devotee has no ability to approach the absolute personality of Godhead by the strength of his present imperfect material senses. And therefore, under the direction of the spiritual master, he is trained in transcendental service of the Lord. And by such training, even for some days, the neophyte devotee gets intelligence in such transcendental service, which leads him ultimately to get free from perpetual inhabitation in the material worlds and to be promoted to the transcendental worlds, to become one of the liberated associates of the Lord in the kingdom of God. So this is our good fortune. Never underestimate your relationship with Srila Prabhupada and his mission. Never underestimate the service that we are rendering to Srila Prabhupada. This is our good fortune. Never underestimate the service that you are rendering in terms of studying Prabhupada's books, in serving his members of his society, the devotees of the Lord. These are not ordinary activities. This is extremely rare and an extremely good, fortunate position to be in. Prabhupada, in a letter to Narahari, says, although there may be some difficulties within our society, these things are not very important. What is important is that we should simply fix our mind on Krishna's lotus feet. This is his instruction in Bhagavad Gita. So we associate with one another so that we can assist each other in hearing and chanting about Krishna. That is the purpose of our society. This will not find, this you will not find in the materialistic society, where all hearing and chanting is simply concerned with sense gratification. So our desire is Krishna. And we want to go back home, back to Godhead, where Krishna lives eternally. So you simply follow my instructions as I have given to you, and surely your life will be a success. So wonderful. And so we should associate with one another so that we can assist each other in hearing and chanting about Krishna. When you're going out preaching, you are talking about Krishna. When you're serving devotees, you can serve the devotees by hearing and chanting in relation to Krishna. So this is what our society should be focused around. And yes, there will be difficulties. Every society has difficulties. This material world is filled with difficulties. That's the nature of this material world. There will never be a time when there is no difficulties in this material world. And after one difficulty, just like when there's winter, there's summer. After summer, there's winter. After a cold season, there'll be a warm season. After a warm season, there'll be a cold season. Even daily during summer, there may be clouds. So sometimes there'll be bright sunshine, and sometimes the sun will be covered. This is the nature. The ups and downs of difficulties. They will come and go. Different shapes, different sizes of difficulties. Dualities will be there in this material world. We want to transcend those dualities by hearing and chanting about Krishna, assisting each other, helping each other to connect with Krishna. And in this way, we'll follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions and become successful. So I'd like to share with you a beautiful narration of a pastime. And then at the end, also Srila Prabhupada's words in terms of serving the Bhaktivedantas, serving Srila Prabhupada, mercy of our Bhaktivedanta, and getting our ticket.
In Tirumala, the importance of Guru Seva. So when the Tirumala was first handed over to Ramanujacharya, Anant Alvar was sent. At that time it was a forest. So he went there, he started clearing up the area, and everything was ready. So Ramanujacharya had visited the temple. The first Brahmotsava time was coming after Ramanujacharya. Shri Bhusatulato Sharanagatullato Shri Bhusatulato Sharanagatullato Yedu Kontala Paina Yelchakka Marupuniki Brahmotsavam. He started instructing disciples to please procure all the ingredients, everything and all, so that we have to do the best way the Brahmotsava celebrations. So all the devotees started going everywhere to ask for donations and material vastus and all. So down there was one cowherd lady, Gollabama, cowherd lady. So she said, sir, please don't go anywhere. Whatever you want, I will provide you. On one condition, I don't want any money. I wanted a meeting with your Guru, Ramanujacharya. I wanted to meet him. So then they said, okay, first let us take the ingredients. After the festival, we will see. So they took all the ingredients, and ingredients were of very first class nature. Festival went on very nicely. Ramanujacharya was very satisfied. After the festival was over, then Ramanujacharya requested, where did you get these ingredients? They said, so and so lady had donated to us. So Ramanujacharya said, please take nice prasadam and give it to her as a bahumana so that she'll be very happy. So they went with very nice prasadams, everything and all, gave it to that lady. He said, I don't want any of this prasadam. I want to meet your Guru. So they came back and said, no, she wanted to meet you. No, not required, try to avoid all these things. But that lady was enforcing, I have to meet. So finally, not able to handle, they brought her and made him sit in front of Ramanujacharya. So when she was there, then she asked, I want to go back to Vaikunta, I want mukti. So Ramanujacharya said, how I can give mukti? Mukti pradata is Vishnu. You have to go and ask him. Then what you can do? I can recommend you to the Lord. So give it in writings, he said. So Ramanujacharya now is caught. If you have to recommend, you have to give in writing. So he had written a letter. She is so and so lady, she had done very nice service of the Lord. I recommend her that she can go back to Vaikunta. So as soon as she took the letter, she started running towards the temple. So Lord Srinivasa was sitting on the outside Golla Mandapam there. So when Srinivasa was sitting there, that lady was running in front of him. The Lord said, "Where are you running?" "Now I am going to meet the Lord inside," because Lord was in a different form there. So for what purpose? I have a recommendation. For what? For going back to Vaikuntha. So where is that recommendation? Then she hand over that recommendation. When Lord sees the letter, immediately a divine airplane from Vaikuntha comes, makes her sit in the aeroplane and takes her back home, back to God.
Anyone, when accepted this Krishna consciousness moment, if he follows the principle, then he is surely going to home, back home, back to God. Very simple. But if you deviate, if you become attracted by Maya, that is your issue. But we are giving you information. This is the process, simple process. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, be purified, we remain always liberated from material classes. And
so similarly, we all should work in such a way that we satisfy our spiritual master by our endeavors, and we all get our recommendation letters ready, so that we will also go back home, back to God. Simple. So for that, attend to hearing, submissive service, these are all very important. We should develop that attitude. Sincerity, seriousness, these two things are always glorified in Bhagavatam. So we should enhance our capabilities, so that we become a better instrument in the service of Guru and Krishna, and our recommendation letter will be immediately be signed.
Spread this Krishna consciousness movement. Parama Ananda Kanda. People will be happy. Our mission is to see Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu. We don't want to see that we exploit somebody else and I become happy. No. We want to see everyone happy, but they do not know how to become happy. Therefore, we are trying to spread this Krishna consciousness movement that everyone will be happy.
So that's how you get your recommendation letter. And we can also become an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 24. Matirmaye niba deyam na vipadyate karhichit praja sarga nirodepi smritischa mad anugrahat. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation, as well as at the time of annihilation. Your remembrance will continue by my mercy. So mad anugrahat, by my mercy. This was one of the questions that Srila Vyasadeva presented to Narad Muni. How is it that you could remember your past life which happened in the previous kalpa? That's like millions of years ago. And this is the reason. Mad anugrahat, by Krishna's mercy, one will remember. So this is the blessing. This is the power of devotional service. Prabhupada in the purport says, devotional service rendered to the personality of Godhead never goes in vain. Since the personality of Godhead is eternal, intelligence applied in his service or anything done in his relation is also permanent. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that such devotional service rendered unto the personality of Godhead accumulates birth after birth. And when the devotee is fully matured, the total service counted together makes him eligible to enter into the association of the personality of Godhead. Such accumulation of God's service is never vanquished, but increases till fully matured. So this is the glory of being engaged in devotional service, connected with Krishna consciousness. That even the total annihilation of creation, when all the universes go back into Mahavishnu and the living entity and goes into a total form of slumber, still the credits that you have accumulated in your devotional account, devotional practice, that never goes in vain. And therefore, we should be very eager to accumulate a lot of devotional credits in whatever way we can increase every day. When we have an opportunity to increase our devotional credits through practicing Krishna consciousness, serving the deities, serving the devotees, studying Srila Prabhupada's books, spreading Krishna consciousness, all these different activities, they are all increasing our spiritual credits. And our duty is simply to continue unmotivatedly serving the Supreme Lord. Our credits will automatically be accumulating. We don't need to worry about, how much or how little, but we should just be eager to know that whatever service I'm rendering, even though I may be doing some service and people people don't recognize it, people did not appreciate the service I was doing, or one may be rendering service in the background. You may be washing the pots and you're not giving the Bhagavatam class, or you're not leading the kirtan, so you're not in the forefront, and nobody knows that you're even washing the pots. That's okay, because we are not washing the pots for people to recognize us. We're simply washing the pots for our purification, for pleasing Krishna, for serving the devotees. And by doing that, we will get credits. And to the degree that you do it without pride, without motivation, to that degree, the credits will increase. And as the credits accumulate, life after life, through birth and death, through annihilation and creation, one cycle after another, they will accumulate, and one day that bank account will become matured. And when that bank account becomes matured, those credits, those loving devotional credits, will be able to purchase the Supreme Personality of Godhead and bind him with our love. So this is the secret. Never stop rendering devotional service. The Lord is glorifying the power of devotional service, encouraging Narad Muni. So the Lord try to appreciate. Narad Muni is sharing with us the beautiful, sweet, deep voice that the Lord spoke in, which relieved all my distress because I was able to see him, even though it was through sound. And the Lord is now revealing the secret of why Narad Muni got the darshan, why he is now not going to appear in this lifetime, and what he should do. He should intensify his service. He should continue rendering devotional service. And we're going to see next week what Narad Muni does, so that we can follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni. Last verse for today. Eva eta etavad ukto pararamam tan mahad bhutam nabolingam alingam ishwaram aham chatasme maha tam maha mahish yashe shirshna vanamam vidade nukampita. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head. So Narad Muni is now sharing how the Supreme Lord and is accepting that the Supreme Lord is a supreme authority, personified by sound because he spoke, unseen by the eyes, but he could see with his ears, because the sound of the Lord and the form of the Lord is not different. Therefore, we can see Krishna through our ears. And he was experiencing wonder. Adbhuta. It's one of the ecstatic symptoms. Bhutam nabo lingam. He was experiencing the Lord's form as wonderful. And this Supreme Lord spoke, and after that, Narad Muni had an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He was very, very thankful to the Supreme Lord. He wasn't proud. Oh, just see, the Lord came to me. Nope. He was humbled. He was very, very, very grateful, and started offering obeisances. The Lord disappeared, and he didn't say, but I have no material desires, so why did you disappear? He didn't blame the Supreme Lord. He didn't complain. He didn't find fault, because his attitude was correct. And his attitude was that I am so fallen, I'm insignificant. And the Lord has been so merciful, so kind to reciprocate in this way. And because of that attitude, he was grateful. And this is the proper attitude that we should have. We should never, ever become proud in our devotional life. We should always have this attitude of gratitude. Prabhupada in the purport says that the personality of Godhead was not seen, but only heard, does not make any difference. The personality of Godhead produced the 4 Vedas by his breathing, and he's seen and realized through the transcendental sound of the Vedas. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita is the sound representation of the Lord, and there is no difference in identity. The conclusion is that the Lord can be seen and heard by persistent chanting of the transcendental sound. So now here you're getting another key, another secret, another code to opening the lock, the secret lock to the spiritual world, to getting the darshan of the Supreme Lord, seeing the Lord, persistent chanting of transcendental sound. This is the stage we want to come to. We want to come to persistent chanting. So as I said, in the beginning stage, you're not serious. You're not interested. So you may chant once in a year when it's Janmashtami. You come to the temple and you chant. Then you become more interested in spiritual life, and you become casual in your devotional life. So then your chanting increases. Now you may go every Sunday to the temple. You may more regularly visit and associate devotees. So you get opportunity to chant more. Then you become more serious, and you take initiation and you vow to chant minimum 16 rounds a day. So now you become more serious, but that is still not persistent. That is regular and that is beneficial, but we want to try to intensify, we want to try to increase as well. So then you can take like special days off and try to chant more than 16 rounds. So in this way, you start engaging in activities that is showing the Lord that you are more serious. You want to be more persistent in your devotional service, in your chanting. You want to intensify. So in that way, one will intensify the relationship with the Lord more and more. In relation to this aspect of gratitude, the Lord will reciprocate as he chooses. And as following in the footsteps of Narad Muni, we have to be open, understanding that the Lord is independent and he can reciprocate as he wishes. So there's this beautiful, wonderful disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Tripurari Swami. Srila Prabhupada loved him dearly, a wonderful devotee. And he's a sannyasi now. Srila Prabhupada called him the incarnation of book distribution. He was a very, very powerful book distributor. He would go and distributed many, many, many books. So that was practically his main service. And Srila Prabhupada really showered mercy upon him. So he shares that one day he was distributing books and it was late. So it was like 8 o'clock. So he was distributing a whole day, and just before the Lord was going to rest, the final arati, he decided to go. He was in Los Angeles temple where Jagannath Balada Subhadra Maharani is. So just before the final arati ended, he decided, he was eagerly, after book distribution, eagerly went to the temple to take darshan. And usually in the evening, there's no devotees there, and there was some kirtan, possibly a lecture audio tape, kirtan tape being played. The pujari was doing the arati, and he shares that he came into the temple and he took darshan of their lordships, and especially Lord Jagannath. And he mentions that Lord Jagannath spoke to him and started to dance on the altar. And the Lord reciprocated like this with him. And immediately after the arati, he left the temple room, went into the car, into the parking lot, went into the car, and he sat in the car, just crying, tears of gratitude overflowing from his eyes. So just as Narad Muni was given a glimpse, darshan of the Supreme Lord, devotees also, like here, the Lord is reciprocating with Tripurari Swami and also giving him darshan, speaking to him. Naturally not making him proud, but making him more humble and filled with gratitude. That that he's able to appreciate that the service is pleasing to the Lord, the service is pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, and I simply have to continue. The Lord is encouraging. And I also like to share when in 2007, I've been practicing Krishna consciousness, and I was thinking that I've been practicing for like 10 years, and still nothing's, I haven't been taking Krishna consciousness seriously. So I was thinking I need to become more serious. I need to intensify this point of intensifying my chanting. So then I started reading and studying books on chanting by Satyananda Maharaj, Gurujan Prabhu, done in different other sannyasis had written books on chanting. So I started to read more, try to study more about the holy name, and try to intensify my practice. I would take, over the next few years, I would take like 2 days off and try to chant more often. But still, there was no reciprocation. And then His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, in one talk, he came to the Lanesia temple and he gave a talk, and he mentioned how His Holiness Satyananda Maharaj would go to Vrindavan, and regularly every year he would perform intense sadhana to get the mercy of the holy name. And in his talk, he mentioned how His Holiness Satyananda Maharaj would mention about trying to open the heart so the holy name can enter. And in order to do that, he would get up early in the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he would sweep the streets of Vrindavan. in this way to invoke the mercy of the Lord, so that nobody is watching, because if somebody is watching, then you may, you get some praise and you may become proud. So in this way, he would perform humble service to invoke the mercy of the Lord. And he mentioned that when he did that service, after some time, his heart opened and the holy name entered. And he had a wonderful experience. So when I heard that, I thought, so I also need to, intensify my service. And I was meditating on that, keeping a open heart, receptive heart, and not an or receiver's mentality, not an achiever's mentality. So meditating like that, then in December of 2009, we had a good fortune of attending a Japa retreat with His Holiness Giraj Maharaj and Archana Siddhi Maharaji. And it was a weekend program where, we heard about the theology of the holy name. And then on the Sunday, we were, we would together chant 64 rounds. It's exactly how we do the Japa Shri program. So that, because I was reading and I was preparing, then for that retreat, I decided, yes, I need to really, beg the holy name to give me an experience. And my request to the Lord was, please give me an experience that I can share as a preacher, that I want to share Krishna consciousness, I want to share with others. So that was my intention. So after we finished, the education, then on the Sunday we started chanting, and we started chanting 64 rounds, and I was chanting 64 rounds with this intention to, have the holy name enter into my heart. And I finished 64 rounds, and nothing serious happened. And I was thinking, looks like, no reciprocation. Okay. So I said, okay, let me continue chanting. So I continued chanting till I finished about 108 rounds, and still, purification was there, but nothing tangible. Then the next day, Giraj Maharaj, the devotees were sharing feedback. So Giraj Maharaj shared his feedback. And he was mentioning that at one point in his chanting also, the heart wasn't opening. The Lord, the holy name wasn't entering. And he then started speaking to the holy name and telling the holy name, okay, I know you want something. So whatever you want, you tell me, and I'm ready to give you whatever you ask for. So this statement Giraj Maharaj mentioned in terms of keeping your heart open, at the same time, it's about pleasing the holy name. When Krishna is pleased in terms of what he wants, when he gets what he wants, then he will reciprocate. So when I heard that statement, okay, the holy name wants something. So what does the holy name want? And if you give the holy name what he wants, then naturally the reciprocation is there. So I took that statement to heart. I went to the altar there, offered obeisance, and told the holy name, okay, Nam Prabhu, I'm willing to give you whatever you want. Please tell me what you want, so that you can reciprocate, and give me an experience so that I can share. And then, we sat, then Maharaj, after that, was going to give a talk. So he went to the Vyasasana and he started to chant Vandeham Shri Guru, offering prayers. And I was sitting there in the audience. And as soon as Maharaj started to chant, I was throughout that time, while I was waiting for Maharaj to give the talk, I was waiting for the holy name to give me a sign, some signal, email, SMS, or WhatsApp, something that would come through and say, okay, this is what he's looking for. This is what I need to do for that reciprocation. And I was sitting and waiting. But all of a sudden, as soon as Maharaj started speaking, I felt the experience of the holy name. And that experience was as Narad Muni is experiencing here. a heart filled with gratitude. That gratitude that filled my heart, which means however the Holy Name was reciprocating with me, the gratitude was so intense that tears started coming from my eyes, like in the CC how it's explained, torrents of rain. So tears were just flowing from me, and I had two hankies, and I felt a little embarrassed because the devotees were sitting next to me. So I tried to check myself, but at the same time, no matter how much I tried to check myself, tears were just flowing from my eyes. And I had two hankies, and with both hankies, I was trying to, wipe the tears, trying to be as little as sober as I could. But as the kirtan, as March sang the kirtan, the Hare Krishna mantra, then he started glorifying Srila Prabhupada, and the intensity of the gratitude just intensified more and more. And then March stopped, and my experience stopped. Then when I came home and I listened to the length of the kirtan, it was like 15 minutes. So the Lord had given me an experience that I'm sharing with you, because that was my promise, in that sense that if the Lord gives me an experience, I'll share with you. When the Lord enters, or when love enters, there'll be so much gratitude, in the sense that you feel you are so worthless, yet the Lord is bestowing his mercy. And this gratitude will be in such an abundant quantity that your whole body will experience different symptoms, like explained in the scriptures. So that experience gave me a clear sign that the process of Krishna consciousness is real. The holy name is real. Krishna is real. And we simply have to sincerely dedicate our life in the service of Srila Prabhupada, get our ticket and visa, and then continue intensifying our devotional service unmotivatedly, simply for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. And in this way, continue and wait for that opportune moment when the Lord will reciprocate with our loving devotional service. And with that, we will end. Vantrat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions or comments? Anyone else? I can unmute as well. If anybody wants to speak, I will allow you. You can unmute as well. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank
Unmuted. No, your microphone is unmuted. Done speaking.